that Barack Obama will change the world, but the Texas Democratic Judiciary will change and affect your daily lives. About that, I present a lady who came within about this far of being a candidate of the Supreme Court this year. She got 49+% of the vote. Came up just short, but she's still someone who I believe is one of the future leaders of the state of Texas. She is the current district judge in Galveston County. She stood up to big mean lawyers from British Petroleum to Dick DeGuerin with Mr. Durst. She's someone who stands up for justice, my friend Susan Criss.
And as someone from Galveston, I can't tell you how excited I am that my island is going to get to be represented in the Texas State Senate by both Joe Jaworski and Chris Bell. It's very exciting. I am a district court judge, and I have been a judge for 10 years. Prior to that, I was a prosecutor, and I worked in the criminal law. When I became a judge, I worked in both civil and criminal. And one of the most impressive things to me when I began working in civil law was how much people had lost their faith in the civil justice system, how cynical the lawyers were, that when they came to court, they didn't expect to get justice for their clients. There was no expectation that everything would be fair and the law would be applied. In my chambers, I have pictures of Democrats who inspire me. I have lots of pictures of LBJ and JFK. I have Barbara Jordan. I have Minnie Fisher Cunningham. I have Jesse Jackson, Jimmy Carter, a lot of people. And after some lawyers left my chambers, it showed me that had an effect on the people in my chambers. I knew it had an effect on me because of the inspiration, but I didn't think that it would affect others. And there are some hearings that you're required by law to have in chambers. There's some that you have to have in the courtroom. And when the lawyers left my chambers, one of them said to the other, you know, I'm so used to going to judges' chambers all around Texas, but especially Harris County area and the surrounding counties, and all you see are pictures of people like Ronald Reagan, George Sr., and George W. But when I went into her chambers and I saw that she had pictures on her wall of LBJ, I knew that I was in a place where I was going to find justice for my client. We have to do, in addition to electing the members of the legislative branch and the executive branch from our party, is that we have to elect members to the judicial branch, the third branch, because they do affect your lives. When Karl Rove decided that he was going to take over the Texas government and then our national government, he bragged that he was going to start by electing Republicans to the Texas Supreme Court, and then he did. The consequence has been that we have lost a lot of our rights, our constitutional rights, by the actions of both those who have passed laws to take away incrementally your right to trial by jury, and by the judicial decisions. There have been decisions that have taken away people's remedies when they get hurt. There have been decisions that have cut the fees so that lawyers cannot afford to take your claim even if it's a good one. There are decisions that affect the discovery and investigation phase to make it harder for people to prove their claims. And then when someone is able to convince a lawyer to take their case, and they go into a court and they convince 12 citizens that a company did something so dangerous that not only should that person be compensated for their wages and their medical benefits, but that the company should be punished to stop the rest of society from being hurt. Our higher courts in Texas routinely and systematically take those verdicts away from the people, giving the companies absolutely no incentive to change what they're doing. In our state, when I began to run for this Texas Supreme Court, a lawyer told me a joke, a lawyer I just met told me a joke. He said, you know what the other courts of appeals in America say about the Texas Supreme Court? They said, when is the only time a plaintiff wins in the Texas Supreme Court? That's when an insurance company sues somebody. And unfortunately, that joke is the truth. But our civil justice system isn't the only one we have problems in. Our highest Court of Criminal Appeals, which is our highest criminal court, is also a national joke. It is frequently fodder for scripts for shows such as Law and Order, because we have a Court of Criminal Appeals that thinks that it's okay for a lawyer to sleep during a capital murder trial and to say that that person got competent representation. We have a Court of Criminal Appeals whose leader, who's the top criminal judge in our state, literally locked the doors when a man was going to be executed that night, denying his lawyers the opportunity to file a piece of paper that could have changed the outcome, or at least brought up an issue that should have been decided. Last year when I was running, I was home one day in my courtroom, and I had a criminal matter. I had an inmate had written me a letter complaining about his lawyer, which happens all the time, and I always bring the inmate over and I talk to him. And sometimes it's a matter of miscommunication. Maybe the lawyer's out working, but the inmate doesn't know, the defendant doesn't know. But in this case, the man complained to me that his lawyer had not been doing his job. He told me that there were some items of evidence over at the Galveston Police Department that his lawyer was refusing to go get, and he wanted a new lawyer. Consequently, down the road, I gave the man a new lawyer that day, and the new lawyer found out what the man said was true, and the man was ultimately, the case was dismissed and the man was released. He'd been in jail for 3 months at the time he spoke to me. But I will never forget when that man spoke to me, the way he pleaded for justice. He was an inmate. This was a black man, appeared to be about my age, and he was standing there in front of me in jail greens with his hands in handcuffs. And he looked at me and he said, "Ma'am, if there is any justice in this room, please let me get some." When the DA finally agreed to dismiss his case, I brought him over and he told me that he felt like he had gotten some. But what impressed me was that everybody who comes to court should feel like they're getting some. It should not be something that somebody has to ask for. We have the right to have that. That is why it's so important that when we make these changes, that we go and vote, that you don't stop at the top. You need to vote straight. I'm going to hear someone tell you need to vote straight Democrat, and I'm echoing that. But if some people like to go name by name, especially if they know the people. If you go name by name, go all the way from the top to the bottom. And do remember, when you do vote that straight Democrat, Chris Bell's a special election, you have to vote for him extra. So please, do not forget to vote for those judges. They do affect your life every day. And I will tell you that I had the opportunity last year to campaign all around Texas, and I got to know the people who are running for the trial courts, for the appellate courts, and for our top courts. And I'm even including the people I ran against. And they are all fine candidates that you can be proud of, who when people go in court in front of them will feel like they are getting justice for their client, and when it comes to justice, they will be getting some. Thank you.